Hi, and welcome to the Route 422 Business Advisor Show. Today, my guest is Jim Sarro of Muhlenberg Green Architects. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm glad you made it on this beautiful day.
Every day is a beautiful day.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about MG Architects. I like to say MG, Muhlenberg Green Architects. You were established in 1920.
Correct.
125 years ago. That's amazing. And you provide comprehensive architectural design, planning, construction management services to clients in Berks County, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the growth of the company and some of the milestones and the success over the years?
Yeah. So as you said, Muhlenberg Green was founded in 1920 by Fred Muhlenberg in Reading, Pennsylvania. And we've grown, obviously, to be a 100-plus-year-old company. There's a continued growth in there. At this time, while we are headquarters in Reading, our footprint is really from the Carolinas out to Ohio and up almost to Maine. We do projects all up and down the eastern seaboard, primarily within a 3-hour radius of our office.
Right.
So that growth has happened over the years with the various partners and a different variety of projects that we're able to do as part of our services.
Very nice.
And as far as milestones, I think Muhlenberg Green Architects has always promoted from within. So through the entire 100-year history of the firm, it's always been who's the next level coming up. And those folks bring their own strengths and connections and work ethic to the various projects. And each iteration of the ownership kind of has their own stamp on the history of the firm and the projects and the big projects or small projects that are done at the time.
Right. Very nice. Very nice. So in the 125 years, I guess there's been a lot of various people, principals.
I haven't been there the whole time.
No, obviously you have. But I'm sure you've seen a lot through it. Yeah. Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. So speaking of principals, there's 3 of you. So you're one. You've got Scott Graham, Robert Conklin, and you form an exceptional leadership team. And I know I've been to some of your events, so I feel the energy of you all. You blend sophistication, educated design with deep construction expertise. And you ensure that all your projects are both innovative and practical. Can you elaborate a little bit on how do you do all that?
Sure.
That's a lot.
Sure. I think having 3 principals, we all have our own strengths. We all have our own things that we're good at. Scott's very smart. He's a very much a architectural historian. He knows a lot of that. Robert, my partner, came up doing construction, so he has that construction knowledge. I'm very practical, coming up same way through dealing with developers and different types of clients. You learn a certain practicality of how the drawings can go together. So I think the 3 of us combined can bring all those strengths to a project. We can make it look elegant, like a historic project. We know how it needs to get put together, and we know how to look at the budgets and make sure that this design is coming in within your price range.
Right. It sounds like you all kind of compensate for each other, and you have a lot of strengths that each other doesn't have. So
correct.
That
And
makes for
we all play off of each other.
a nice cohesive group.
Correct.
Which is really a beautiful thing. So tell us about some of your collaborative construction-friendly approach, and tell us about how each project I know is structurally sound and efficiently built, and it also has to be aesthetically compelling. So it's got to have all the above.
Correct,
right?
yes. and the whole process starts with the owner and what is it they're looking for, because the job of an architect is really kind of asking questions and helping you with your project. What is it that you need? How can we help you achieve your dreams and bring this thought that you have to life? And I think, again, with all our strengths, understanding what that is that you're looking for, getting down to, okay, here's our design. How are we going to put it together now? Understanding how contractors think and how they're going to attempt to build a project plays into that constructability of it, we call it.
Right.
Okay. It doesn't matter how beautiful a design is if it can't be built.
Sure.
So I like to use the example of, okay, you've got that little tiny pocket in there, but how's someone going to get a paintbrush back there to,
Right.
to paint that? Or,
Right.
or you have to think in terms of someone's going to be building this, a contractor in January, he's got his overall on and his gloves, and you're asking him to put a little nut and bolt through a hole here. So kind of understanding that constructability of these designs, I think, goes a long way to our success.
Yeah, interesting. So I guess each project is unique and different.
Absolutely.
And I'm just curious as to how many, and this is probably a hard question to answer, but how many meetings would you say you have for an average client to get to initially, here's what we want, to let's get going?
It's funny, I just had a meeting this morning with a client where we're starting fresh. What are your thoughts? What are we looking at? So we'll, in the schematic design process, probably go through 2, 3, 4 iterations of planning. The first step today is just getting their ideas. What's your program? How many offices do you need? What is it that you're looking for? And then we start laying it out, go back to them again, start getting their initial input. Usually within 2 to 3 meetings, we can have a pretty good idea of a design. Once we move into construction documents, we probably meet just really with the client 2 or 3 times. At that point, we're more with our consultants, our mechanical, electrical engineers, our structural engineers, figuring out how it goes together. And we'll have 1, 2 meetings with the client during that process just to make sure we have everything that they're looking for. You know,
Yeah,
especially at the end, we'll just sit down with a set of drawings and look at each sheet. Is this what you want? Is this what you're looking for? Is there anything else you need? Is there anything else that you're questioning? And just to make sure we have all of that, that
Nice.
scope done. And depending on the size of the project, we can have drawings done in a month. It can take 6 months to work on a project, depending on the size and the complexity of it.
Yeah, do you have to deal with permits and things like that too? And
Some projects we file for the building permit. Sometimes the contractor will, but usually there's a question or two that comes from a code official. Hey, can you
Sure.
just clarify this? Can you clarify that? And we're always there to help with that through that process. The more complex projects, I'll sit down with the code official before we even submit for a building permit and say, here's what we're doing. Let me know your thoughts. What are you looking for? And they seem to appreciate that because it's just not thrown on their desk and, here.
right.
And then when
Yeah.
they get the drawings, they understand what you're trying to do, they understand everything, and it usually makes the process go a lot smoother.
Yeah, you really have to build that relationship.
This
Yeah.
whole industry is about relationships.
I can
Contractors,
imagine.
code officials, consultants, owners, everybody.
Yeah, nice cohesive relationship. So,
Yes.
yeah. So, MG Architects, you're very personable, and I know that from some of the events I've been at. Everybody's just so warm and friendly, and you have a beautiful office as well, and you have a very approachable staff, including 6 licensed architects, 6 designers, and you take the time, we were just chatting a little bit about, to get to know your clients, not just their projects. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that. How do you, I guess you have to really get to know the person, the people, and more specifically the ins and outs of what they want.
Correct. And like we talked about, some of these projects can take a long time, from schematic design to doing the drawings, to even through construction. I mean, I'm going to be talking to you possibly for 2 to 3 years.
Right.
Well, hey, how was your weekend? What did you do?
Yeah.
I always pick the phone up. I had a person I worked with many years ago. He always picked the phone up and said, hey, what's going on? We have time to get to your project. What's going on? Tell me what's happening. Having a terrible day. Oh, well, can I help you with anything? It's just a way to get to know the person, because you're going to spend a lot of time with them. And you just don't want it to be so black and white professional.
Right. I'm
Yeah.
sure it sounds like it's even more personable than building a house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, again, we're spending a lot of time together. There's going to be a lot of decisions that need to be made. And that personal approach also starts to build trust. You get to know me as well, and my habits and personality, and that's how you build that trust with your client then.
Right, that's beautiful, very nice. So you recently relocated to your permanent office at 1268 Penn Avenue in Wyomissing, and I know this enhances your ability to serve the local community and underscore your commitment to the region. Can you just tell us a little bit about how did the move go? I know that's a big thing. And how's it working out in your new space?
It's working out great. Every move is terrible.
Yeah, I know.
Especially with our firm, we had 100 years of history that somehow we were still moving to a new building.
Yeah.
Boxes, what's in this? But throughout Muhlenberg Green's history, Fred Muhlenberg, our founder, he would design a building in Reading, and part of his fee almost was he leased space in the building. So he was constantly moving from one building to the next to the next. So it's nice to have a permanent home in Reading that we can call ours, in a fixed space that everybody knows, oh, Muhlenberg Green, they're right down there on Penn Avenue.
Nice.
But yeah,
it's a great location too.
Yeah, it's a great location right on the main street there.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful site, tree-lined street, and it's good to have that permanent home. And we tried to make it nice and inviting on the interior. As you know, we have all our artwork or renderings from 100 years hanging on the walls. So we invite people to come and take a look at some of the historic renderings and historic drawings that we have around the office.
Nice. Yeah, really nice. So tell us, the audience, a little bit about any current projects you're working on, or some of your more significant projects that you completed.
Yeah, this is always a hard question to answer.
I'm sure.
But
I'm sure they're all interesting.
They're all interesting. They all, like you said, every project is unique. There's nothing really cookie cutter about what an architect does. Everything has its own challenges. I think our biggest challenge, and the thing we like to work on the most, is what we call adaptive reuse. So taking an existing building, renovating it, turning it into something else. Mm-hmm. You just never know what you're going to find when you start tearing the room apart.
Yeah.
An example is our project in downtown Reading. We did 503 Penn Street, which was a building that was originally built in 1890. Then again, it was renovated in 1910. They added a fourth floor to the building. And we went in now, we had to renovate it. At the time, the third floor held what was called the Reading Chandelier Company. So back in 1910, if you wanted a lamp, you didn't go to Home Depot. There were no Home Depots. You went to the Reading Chandelier Company, and you got an electric lamp there. Well, we found business cards in the walls from the Reading Chandelier Company.
Yeah.
It's 1920. We found handwritten notes on the walls from the early 1900s. I found a sticker we tried to save from the 1920 World's Fair.
Wow.
We tried to save it, but it was so brittle that I just finally took a picture of it. So,
oh, that's interesting.
So we
that's
could
really
keep
cool.
it. But working on these really old buildings, you find these really interesting things.
I can imagine.
And the challenges are sometimes your design may not quite work because you found, I didn't know there was a column in that wall. Okay, let's go back and relook at things and have to adjust as we go. So those types of adaptive reuse, I think, are the most fun and the most challenging, but they also offer a great end product.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like before and after is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how can our viewers learn more about yourself at Muhlenberg Green and get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can visit our website. It's mg-architects.com, or you can look me up on LinkedIn. You can connect with me or reach out to me anytime.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jim. This was very informative. I appreciate you coming in.
All right, thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah.